This one thing might make or break the relationship that you have with your clients or that as a client you have with your assistant. How you communicate your time changes everything. So, as the assistant, your clients desperately want to know that the money that they're spending and investing is being used well. It's not that they want to micromanage you, they just want to know that it's being used appropriately. And so, in the beginning, there's a lot of trust that needs to be built up. And so, in the beginning, how you communicate how you're spending that time will build that trust. So what I like to recommend is sending even like a weekly email to your clients and say, "Hey, here's what I did for you. Here's what's in progress. Here's what I'm going to do tomorrow or the next business day." That way it's super clear and there's no misunderstanding on how you're utilizing that well spent and earned money that they're giving you to complete those projects. It also helps them to understand like, "Oh, I didn't realize that it didn't take that long to do that task or that maybe that task requires more time." So that allows them to budget a little bit better knowing how long certain projects take. The other thing I always recommend is when you track your hours, if you do hourly work instead of project work, is in your timesheet, make sure that you're including what you did during each of those times. So if you're clocking in from 9 to noon, then at the end, say, worked on newsletter, answered emails, and it doesn't have to be a long book, just really quick words on what you did during that time. And there's two reasons for this. First, yes, it helps the client to get a better understanding of how long projects take. But second, it's also really needed for tax purposes. My accountant has told me many times that they need to see the deliverable on what my team achieved if they are independent contractors instead of just the hours they worked. They need to know what they did during those hours. And so that's why I always recommend to the people I work with that they write in exactly what they did during that time. Now, if you are project based and you say, "I'm going to write so many blog posts, or I'm going to do so many social media posts, so many graphics for this budget, for this package," then that's a little bit different. I still recommend that you communicate your time, even if you're not tracking hourly time in those projects. That way you can have a, because here's what happens sometimes. I see this way more than I would like, is that those who go to Package Rage, and again, I'm not saying don't go to Package Rage because they can be a really good resource for you and a really good way to structure your business, but you still have to track your time. And even if you're not turning in those hours to your client, it helps you to know this is how long it takes me to do certain projects so that you can fluctuate the cost of your packages based on different things. That, like, oh, I've started to see that a lot of my clients request this add on, so I'm going to add that to some of my packages and it will be this much. And you will already know how long it takes you to do those tasks. So still clock in as a package, service provider so that you yourself know how long it takes to do certain projects, and then still send that weekly email that says, "Hey, here's what I did, here's what's in progress, and here's what I'm going to do next." And still do that regardless. And that will really help your clients to feel taken care of, that things are getting accomplished. And it might even give them some time to say, like, "Oh, actually, I forgot that we were doing that. Can we switch gears for just a second and do this one thing first and before we do that?" And it helps just keep the communication flowing because they don't want to micromanage, but they also want to make sure that they're spending their time well. So, as an assistant, consider if you were to hire a team member on your team, how would you like to be communicated that things are getting done? How would you do that in a way that was not micromanaging? And this is the way, this is how you do it. And it's so funny because sometimes I have assistants that I work with, not on my team, but like that I've helped to get hired by clients, and they get almost feel like they're having a personal assault to them when someone says, "I would like to see, how you're tracking your time or how you're using your time." And it's not because they want to micromanage most of the time. Yes, there are clients out there who are micromanaging, but most of the time it's just to increase that communication and understanding of how that time is spent so they can restructure and say, "Hey, maybe spend a couple hours on that project, but if it takes more than that, let's spend more time over here because I don't want to invest that much over here. I'd really love to spend more time over here." So, and they can restructure that time with you. So please don't take it as an affront if they ask this. Instead, think, how can I use this time to brag about myself? Because that's really what this opportunity is. Whenever you send that weekly report, it's really a time for you to show all the value you're bringing to your clients. It's not a time to get offended that they want to, they're challenging what you're doing and everything. It's really, if you shift the mindset and say, this is the time that I get to show them all the value I'm bringing to their business. I get to brag about all that I did and what I've accomplished, and then I'm going to tell them what's going on in the next week so that they feel like I'm a valued member of their team. Because undoubtedly, the clients, once you start getting to a rhythm, they sometimes forget all that you actually are doing for their business, and it helps to see like, oh, right, that's all that they're doing for me. I'm so glad I don't have to do that, or that someone else is doing that for me. And so sending that weekly report continually is just a good habit to be in. And I think that you'll find that your clients feel better supported and well communicated in that way. Now, the last thing I'll say with this and the way that you communicate time, it your boundaries matter. And so you get a text message from your client and they say, hey, do you have time to work on this project? Just because it's 8 p.m. at night doesn't mean you have to respond just because they've said it. What you can say is, actually, I'm not available right now, but I can work on it tomorrow. So you have the ability to say this. Too many people that I've worked with will get that text message and say, oh, I've got to drop everything and be there right now. And then they complain to me and say, my client expects me to be on call and work in the evenings. I'm like, well, have they said that they want you to work in the evenings and be on call? They say, well, no, it just is that they're always messaging me in the evening and I feel like I have to respond. So this is now not just the client's fault. This is the assistant's responsibility as well to communicate that you do not want to be working at this time, or that you do not offer services at this time, because you are not an employee, you're an independent contractor, a business owner who gets to choose your own schedule. And so, yes, if you happen to be available, that's wonderful. And you can say, actually, I happen to have a few minutes, I can do that. But if you always do this, if you always drop everything the moment your client reaches out, they're going to be trained to think that that's how it always will be. And you will constantly feel on call. So please make sure that you don't do this. Make sure that instead you put boundaries on your time. Maybe in the very beginning, you say, just so you know, I only work between 9 and 5 each day, and that the time that I work for you will fluctuate. It won't always be that anytime you reach out to me between 9 and 5, I'm not going to respond immediately, but I will get all of my tasks done between that 9 to 5 time, and I'm supporting multiple clients. And so when I'm working with my other clients, I'm going to give them my full attention. When I'm working with you, I will give you my full attention. If I get a message after 5 p.m., just know that I will get back to you the next business day. You're welcome to reach out and ask if I happen to be available, but just know that most of the time I probably won't. And that's totally okay to say that. And they will know then, okay, this is how my assistant operates. So they can honor your time boundaries with your family as well. So you just need to communicate it. If you have been working with a client for a while now and have not yet had this conversation, I really recommend that you do. I think that it will change everything in your relationship. So, time and how you communicate it matters so much and is probably the number one thing that I see that makes or breaks the client and assistant relationship. I have paired over 120 different people with clients and assistants together in the last year or so. And this number one thing is the thing that comes up the most and is probably the number one challenge that my clients and the assistants face. And so if you can use these tools that I've given you, I promise that you'll see some massive changes. So good luck to your business success, and we will see you soon.